আসো করতে পারে না, এখানে কি যাও।
Shayok, please be on mute. So this component is known as Azure Synapse Analytics. It is you can say it is a modified component. Earlier also it had a data warehouse component that was known as Azure SQL DW or Azure SQL Data Warehouse. It was there, but now it is a modified service. Why? I will come to that, because it is not only a SQL data warehouse, but actually it has many components. Okay, that's why now it is it has become enterprise analytics service. It gives you lot of facilities. It brings together enterprise data warehousing and big data analytics. So when we discussed about big data analytics, we talked about the Synapse. We did not have the detailed discussion. We discussed Azure Data Explorer, but Synapse Analytics is also a part of this big data analytics. Okay, so what is the work of it? It ingest, prepare, manage, and serve data. So it is all about the data. Ingest means it will take it from the source systems. Then preparation means it will like a lot of changes it can do on the data. Then managing the data, and serve data means it is like say for some reporting purpose the data is sent, then that is the serving the data. Now here in this Azure Synapse Analytics, various technologies are working together. Okay, first one is the SQL technologies. So that was earlier there, as I told you, that Azure SQL DW was there. Now it has become Azure Synapse. Why? Because not only this SQL DW, but apart from that, it has many components, and SQL DW is also renamed. We'll come to that. So SQL technologies, then Spark technologies. Spark also you can use. Azure Spark is a it was open source system. So this Spark also you can use within Synapse Analytics. Okay, then there are the pipelines for data integration. Now pipeline is part of Azure Data Factory. Azure Data Factory we'll discuss later, but for now you can just understand that it is the orchestration component which actually helps you to move your data, to modify and move, because you can understand that there is a lot of data flows are happening, right? In the big data analytics also we discussed that we have a data flow, that maybe data is coming from source systems to my storage, from the storage to Azure Data Explorer, from Azure Data Explorer to Power BI, and so on. So these activities are being done by Azure Data Factory. That is a different component. Okay, and Azure Data Factory has a unit of work that is known as pipeline. Now this pipeline, it is part of Azure Data Factory, but what is now being done, that inside Azure Synapse Analytics one pipeline part is there. So it is actually was component of Data Factory, but now it is available integrated with Synapse. So if you have to say transfer some data, you don't have to call a Azure Data Factory separately. You can do that operation from within Synapse Analytics. And then integration with Power BI, Cosmos DB, Azure ML. So there is a it is like a combination of services. Everything you are getting together. Instead of going here and there, there is a very strong and good integration between the services. So it is like integration with Power BI. So if you Power BI is the reporting service, okay, it is again from Azure, from different components of Azure, different resources from Azure, you can connect with Power BI to generate reports. And then Cosmos DB, you can connect with Cosmos DB, and then you can connect with Azure Machine Learning. So machine learning, you have some idea, you have studied data science also. So here also in Azure we have machine learning component. So that is the same purpose, means for doing the machine learning algorithm implementation of my data. So that also can be done from Azure Synapse. So it's like a you can say it is a pool of services. We have SQL technologies, we have Spark technologies, we have the pipelines, and we have integration with many different other components. Okay, so this is a diagrammatical representation what we already have discussed. So you can see here that at the left, these are the data sources. So data can come from many different sources. It may be from on-premise data, it can be cloud data, it can be some SaaS data, it can be streaming data. Okay, so as you know that data now can be of any type. It can be batch data, streaming data, structured data, unstructured data from cloud source, on-premise source. So data may come from various different sources. Okay, and this is the entire this sky blue components. You can see it is at the top. It is the Azure Synapse Analytics. So inside Azure Synapse Analytics, you can find that there is a studio. So it is something, it is a component, you can say it is a user interface. Okay, so the studio is a user interface from where you can connect to many different components of Synapse. Then inside it, what you can do, you can do data integration, management, monitoring, security. All these things are there inside Azure Synapse. Okay, and then you can see two blocks. One is the SQL, one is the Spark. So you can use these SQL and Spark technologies to analyze your data. And at the bottom you can find Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So we talked about data lake storage when we discussed Azure storage, and I told you that data lake is mainly used for this big data analytics part and data warehousing. So whenever you will create any Synapse Analytics resource in the portal, then it will ask you to create a data lake also. Means you have to link the Synapse with the data lake. It is important. Okay. And then you can see at the right, there are some components are mentioned known as Azure Purview, Azure Machine Learning, Power BI. So you can connect your data to this component. So it's like if you just look at it again, so data is coming to Azure Synapse Analytics. Azure Synapse Analytics has a very close relationship with data lake, and at the right there are various components where the data may be sent. So everything is like integrated. Now about the components. Okay, one thing I just want to mention that the Synapse is a huge component. Okay, it has many things inside, and it is it is costly also. If you create it, you have to be careful because with the means the most minimum configuration also, it will charge you a lot, and it takes a lot of time to get created. Okay, so for that I will not show you in the class that what exactly it is. It's not possible because it will take a significant amount of time even to create it. But with this study material also, I will give you some documents, so you can go through them where every screen there are the screenshots in the document. So you can just, if you can follow that, then it will give you some idea, and then you can create it as per your requirement. Okay, so the first component is Synapse SQL. It is the distributed query system for T-SQL. Okay, Synapse SQL is something which is like, as I told you that earlier there was Azure SQL DW. So this is now converted to, you can say that it is now known as Synapse SQL. But Synapse SQL has more features as compared to the original component, and it offers both serverless and dedicated resource models. Now, what is the difference between dedicated and serverless? If I just go to this diagram here, we can draw. Say this is called dedicated. Means whenever say you have to run some query, so what you took some processing power unit. Okay, that I need this much of space where my queries will be executed. That is known as the dedicated model, where you have asked for some resource to work on it. And what is serverless? In serverless, actually you have not bought anything. Okay, it is nothing. You don't have anything, but whenever you have some query, you are asking Azure that hey, I just want to execute my query. So what Azure will do? It will give you some resources, say some processing power, some memory required to execute your query, and it will be executed. And once the query is over, these resources will be sent back to Azure. So as if you don't have anything with you, you are just taking it for your query execution and giving it back. That is known as the serverless model. Okay, you can just compare that. Say you have your own machine where you can work. That is the dedicated model. Or another thing maybe that whenever you have to give some exam, whenever you have to attend some class, you are just going to a cyber cafe and asking that hey, I just want to attempt class, so I need one machine with this configuration for 1 hour. So you can pay for the same, you can use that machine and come back. So that is the serverless model. Now in Synapse SQL, you have both models are available. Okay, so you can go for serverless model, you can go for dedicated model. Built-in streaming capabilities to land data from cloud data sources into SQL table. So there are the streaming capabilities, so that if there are some real-time data is there, so that also can be taken here. And one thing I just want to tell you that anyway, we will mainly discuss this Synapse SQL component, and the queries that you can write here, that is very similar to the SQL queries that we use in SQL Server, because it is based on the T-SQL language only, though there is some difference. So if you are familiar with T-SQL, then it will be very easy to start writing code in Synapse SQL. You don't need a separate training for the language. Okay, it is similar. Integrate AI with SQL by using machine learning models. So from here, from Synapse SQL, you may connect with the Azure machine learning, so that you can send the data for some prediction generation, outcome generation, etc. So that's how you can integrate artificial intelligence with SQL. So that is the Synapse SQL component. We'll come to that in detail. So the next is Apache Spark for Azure Synapse. So there is the Spark component. As I told you that Apache Spark is a it's an open source system, but here Apache Spark is integrated in Azure, so that you don't have to use it separately, but you can use it from Azure only. Deeply and seamlessly integrates Apache Spark, so it's like you will not even understand that you are using it from Azure. So it's like very much well integrated. Data preparation, data engineering, ETL, machine learning, all these things you can do with Apache Spark. So of course, if you really have to use this Azure Synapse component, then first of all you have to learn Spark. You should know that how to write code in Spark. Then only you can use this component. Okay, then there is the built-in data integration. As I told you that it is like Azure Data Factory is the integration component, but here as if Azure Data Factory is built in. Okay, here in within the Azure Synapse Analytics. So where it is used to create reach at scale ETL pipelines without leaving Azure Synapse Analytics. So you don't know yet Azure Data Factory. We'll have some discussion on this later. So once it is discussed, you will understand what is Azure Data Factory. But as if for now, you can just assume that it is a component, separate component, but it is well integrated within Synapse. And then comes the fourth component, that is known as Synapse Studio. So what is that? Provides a single way for enterprises to build solution, maintain and secure. It's like you can say it's a user interface. Okay, like Visual Studio you have used, maybe most of you may have used. So Synapse Studio is similar kind of component within Synapse, where you get all the possible links, where you can go all these details, you can get it here. It's very easy to start working from this Synapse Studio. Perform key tasks, ingest, explore, prepare, orchestrate, visualize. So everything you can do from here. Whatever components we are discussing, everything is available in the studio. So once you have created the Synapse Analytics resource, then you should go to the studio and there you will get everything. Monitor resources, users across SQL and Spark. Okay. Now, major feature areas, as I told you that there are, it is actually a huge service, this Synapse Analytics, and lot of things can be done from here. So a few of the major important feature areas that I have mentioned, so that you should get some idea. Create and set up a Synapse workspace. Now what is a workspace? I'll come to that. Analyze using a serverless SQL pool. As I told you that Synapse SQL can be of two types, serverless and dedicated. So either you can do the analysis using a serverless pool, or you can do the analysis using a dedicated pool, or you can do the analysis using Apache Spark, analyze data in a storage account. So as I told you that Synapse is closely integrated with the storage account. Whenever you try to create Synapse, first you have to link it with the data lake. Okay, so when your data is in that data lake, you can do some analysis on that data also. Orchestrate with pipeline. So this is something you cannot visualize now because you don't know it. So I will come to that later, but for now you can just understand that whatever I can do through the pipelines of Azure Data Factory, here also I can create pipeline and do some data movement and data changes. Visualize data with Power BI. So whatever data you have, you can connect it to the reporting tool, that is Power BI, and monitor the activities, what is going on. So these are the major feature areas of Azure Synapse. Okay, now come to the Synapse Workspace. Now, what is a workspace? It is a secureable collaboration boundary for doing cloud-based enterprise analytics in Azure. Okay, so actually, we first create a workspace. When we go to Synapse Analytics, we first create a workspace, and inside the workspace, we actually start our work. So, what are the things there? We'll discuss. So, whenever you create a Synapse workspace, it is deployed in a specific region, and it should have one Azure data lake service. Okay, so one data lake should be connected with this workspace, and then there are some other things associated with the workspace. First one is the link service. So what is a link service? It is the connection string to connect to external resources. Maybe you are connecting some data source, you are connecting some outcome, output to send to Power BI. So you have to create some link service for the same. Then you have the Synapse SQL. So Synapse SQL is ability to do T-SQL based analytics. If I want to do, then I should have that Synapse SQL component. You have the serverless Apache Spark pool. So Apache Spark, if you want to do some Spark analytics on your data, then you will use Apache Spark. And Apache Spark is always serverless. Okay. For SQL pool, it can be of two types, dedicated and serverless. But for Spark pool, it is always serverless. And then there are the pipelines to move data between services and orchestrate activities. Okay, so these are the components of the workspace. So first of all, we have to create it in a specific region. Then we have to connect one data lake service with that, and then we have these components within the workspace. So next we will concentrate only on Synapse SQL part. Okay, because as I told you that it has many components, but if you have some SQL background, then it is very easy to work on this Synapse SQL, because it has also many things that I can tell you, that the Synapse SQL itself is huge. It has many aspects to work on. So we are concentrating on Synapse SQL for now. So what is the architecture of Synapse SQL? It leverages a scale out architecture. Okay, scale out architecture means that it's like whenever required, you can expand it and work accordingly. Distribute computational processing of data across multiple nodes. I'll come to that. What are the nodes? What is the structure? But you have to keep in mind that, as I told you initially, that our basic requirements are two. One is that I have to deal with a huge data, and number two is that I need a very fast performance. So that is being handled in Synapse SQL. Okay, compute is separate from storage. Now, when we talk about any processing, then majorly we need two things. One is the compute power or processing power, another is the storage. Okay, so we store our data in the storage, and then we use the processing power to, maybe say I'm writing some query, so I can use that. But sometimes it is possible that say I have used data, but the queries that I am running, maybe it's very few. Okay, so it is not always required that when my storage is high, then compute should be high, or vice versa, right? But if these two are integrated, then if I need more storage, then I had to take more compute also. But here in Synapse SQL, this compute is separate from storage. So if you may take as many as storage, but compute you can keep the minimum if you require. Then it is a node based architecture. Okay, so what is node based architecture? Actually there are several nodes. It is working in that way. I'll come to that. Applications connect and issue T-SQL commands to a control node. So how it works? Actually there are two types of nodes. Let me first go to the diagram, then it may be more clear how it works. So this is the diagram. So first of all, let us concentrate on dedicated SQL pool only, because this one, the serverless pool, you can understand once we discuss this. There is not much difference. Only thing is, in case of dedicated, I'm taking the resources beforehand, and in case of serverless, I'm not taking the resources beforehand. As per my requirement, the uh, Azure Synapse will give the resources. Okay, so let us first start here from the dedicated SQL pool. So how it works? You can see here at the top there is a control node. So we told that it's a node based architecture. So you can just assume that these are the nodes or some machines, say. Okay, so there is the control node. It is the brain of the architecture. Everything starts from here. So let us start from here, that how it works. Say I write a query. Okay, there is one application. Through the application the user writes a query. So where it comes, it has some connection with the control node always. Okay, and the query comes to the control node first, and then this query is divided in multiple parts. Okay, because if I give you some work, say I tell you that you have to write some 100 pages. You have to copy from some book, and you have to write some 100 pages and give back to me within 2 hours. Okay, so if you are only a single person, then it may be very difficult for you to write and complete it within 2 hours. Maybe you can write very fast, but still it will not be possible, because if you try to write that way, then the handwriting will be very bad, or there will be a lot of errors, or in the worst case you will not be able to complete writing the 100 pages. But you have to give it within 2 hours. There is no relaxation. Then what is the alternative left with you? Maybe what you can do, you may hire 9 more people, so that now you are 10, and then you give 10 pages to each of the persons. So it's like the work is divided in 10 groups, so each person gets 10 pages to write within 2 hours. So that may be something that may be good, right? So maybe you can complete it within 2 hours and you can give it back. Or say if you can afford more people, then maybe you can go for some 20 people. so that what will happen that everyone now has to complete 5 pages. So maybe you don't need even these 2 hours, and the work will be very neat, work will be without any error, and you can complete it fast. So you can understand that if I can complete the work in parallel, means if I can share the work among multiple people, then what will happen that you will get the outcome. It will be means performance will be good, and the quality of the outcome will be good. So here also this SQL pool, it is taking the same concept. What it is doing, whenever some work is coming from the user, first of all there is the MPP engine through which the work is divided in multiple parts. Okay, and then the work is given to multiple compute nodes. Okay, so the work is given to the compute node. So it's like the 10 people or 20 people, whatever you can afford. So this work is given to multiple compute nodes, they process the work is completed by them, the individual components of the work, then they return it to the MPP engine and control node, and everything is together, and that is submitted by the control node to the application. So for me, say I have given the work to Shayok. So I know that I have given the work to Shayok and he will give me that back. Okay. So but I don't know that how he is doing the work. So maybe within these 2 hours he had just hired his friends, he had completed the work, and at the end I am getting the work from Shayok. So I am not aware of that exactly who is doing the work, but what I am concerned with that the work should be completed within time, and the work should be good, right? I want that the pages should be written very neat and clean and without any error. So that is being ensured by Shayok. But internally what he is doing, he is just hiring many of his friends and sharing the work, completing the work, and giving it back to me. So that is the architecture of the SQL pool. So here control node is the node which is actually interacting with the user. It is taking the query, it is dividing the query, it is giving the shared work with the compute nodes, and then these compute nodes do the work, and then when it is completed, it is sent back to control node, and control node then connects with the application or the user connection. So in that way, two things are ensured, that first of all that it can deal with a huge amount of data, very complex queries on the huge amount of data. At the same time, the performance can be kept the high. Okay. Now many other aspects that we have to know. If any question you can ask. So you have to understand this architecture. This is the architecture based on SQL work. So applications connect and issue T-SQL commands to a control node. Control node utilizes a distributed query engine or MPP engine to optimize the queries for parallel processing. Okay. So once the query comes to the control node, then it utilizes this MPP engine so that the queries are optimized for parallel processing. That also needs some processing, right? Because if you have 100 pages to write, and say you have to divide among the 10 friends, you have to ensure that it's like each friend gets a different 2 pages, and if there is some connectivity, maybe that one page has to know what is written in the other page. Say friend 1 is writing in green ink, then the friend 2, he also has to write in green ink, something like that. So it is not always that the work is totally independent of each other. Sometimes there are some link between the words. So all these things need to be managed by the control nodes. Passes operations to compute nodes to do their work in parallel. Okay, compute nodes store all data in Azure storage and run the parallel query. So where the data is stored? Data is stored in the Azure storage, and then it works on it. Now there is another component. I will come to the diagram again. Here you can see that every node, whether it's a compute node or control node, it has a DMS component. Now what is this DMS component? System level internal service that moves data across the nodes as necessary to run queries in parallel and return accurate results. So DMS is actually working on that part. You know that I told you that, say if one friend is working on green ink, then the maybe the second friend, he has to know that the first person is working in green ink, and maybe something he also has to write in green ink. So whenever there is some linking between them, then it is important that DMS is actually working on that. What it does, it moves the data across the nodes, because sometimes the same data may be needed by multiple nodes and they have to share something within them, because the processing is not always so detached. Sometimes they are connected with each other, so that is being done by the DMS service. Okay, now if we talk about this serverless SQL pool, it is scaling down automatically to accommodate query resource requirements, and query gets enough resources and finishes successfully. So that is the only difference with this means this serverless and this dedicated pool. So here also we have this control node and compute node, storage, database, everything is there. Only difference is that we are not assigning a number of compute nodes. Okay, it's like based on the work requirement, it is being assigned by the Azure Synapse, and once it is done, the nodes are released. But in case of dedicated pool, we are assigning the compute nodes. Now you can understand that when there are 10 friends are writing, then each of them have to write 10 pages. When there is 20 friends, then each of them have to write 5 pages. And if you can collect some 100 people, then each of them have to write only one page. So there are some 100 possible divisions of the work, and based on the resources available, you can divide the work to them. So if there are 100 students or 100 friends, you can give one to each of them. If there are 10 friends, then you can give 10 pages to each of them. So it all depends on the number of compute nodes, that the how the work is divided. Okay, now now when we are talking about the dedicated SQL pool, so here it represents a collection of analytic resources. Size of SQL pool is determined by data warehousing unit. We'll come to that in the detailed discussion of data warehousing unit. If you remember that in case of Azure SQL, we had the DTU and vCore systems, right? And here we have the DWU. That is the unit of means how much unit of processing you want. So that is the DWU. Independent sizing of compute power irrespective of storage needs. As I told you that whatever compute power it needs, that is not dependent on your storage requirements. Storage you have to maintain separately, and compute power you have to maintain separately. Pause and resume compute capacity when required. That is also a very important thing, because as I told you that it is very costly. If you create any resource, then it is actually going to have a huge bill amount, okay, at the end of the month. But say you don't need it always. Maybe at the daytime, maybe for 4 hours, there are some queries are being run by the users, okay, and for the rest of the 20 hours it is idle. So instead of paying for the 20 hours, what you can do, you can just pause it. You can pause your compute capacity, okay, and when the day starts, then you can start it. So I had worked in one project where, you know it was like they decided that the users that were using the warehouse, it was only in their daytime. At the night, there was no one to use the data warehouse. So what they did, that maybe at the end of the day, say 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., they used to pause that service, and at the next day morning, say 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., they are starting the service. So what you can do, maybe for the 12 hours, you can save the cost. So it is not necessary to make it 24 hours open if you don't need it, and accordingly you can work on the cost saving. Okay, then there is another concept. It is itself, you can say, a separate lecture is required for that. That is known as poly-based technology. simple poly-based T-SQL queries used to import big data. I'll come to that later. It stores data in relational tables with columnar storage. Now, it is another database concept that you should know, that whenever you keep data in a relational database, generally by default, it is known as the row level storage. Means data is stored based on the records or the rows. But there is another type of storage that is known as columnar storage, where data is stored based on the columns. Means say if there are some student records and it has some 10 columns, then data will be stored column wise. So that actually makes the storage efficient, and processing also is faster. So here in Synapse SQL, data is stored with columnar storage always. Okay, why? Because here the data is huge and we need a very fast performance. Use the power of MPP to run high performance analytics. So it has this MPP engine is there, which actually helps you to run the queries in parallel so that you get the high performance. Analysis results goes to worldwide reporting databases or applications. So when your analysis is done, then the result may be sent to any reporting database or any application, because as I told you that it can integrate with many systems. Okay, before going to decouple storage, I will just try to tell you about Polybase. Okay. So what is Polybase? Now say you have a table in the database. So what we do, we have the table structure, records and columns, and we keep our data here, right? Physically we store our data and then we write queries. That is the traditional system. Now say I have my data in some Excel file. So what we generally do, say I have data in Excel file and I want to keep the data in my SQL database and I want to run queries. So what we'll do, first of all, I will transfer everything from the Excel file to my SQL table and then I will write the queries on that. That is the traditional system. But now there is a problem that most of the systems have to handle big data, right? Means we have a huge amount of data that we have to deal with. Now say if I have a huge amount of data, I have to write queries. So what is the first thing that I have to bring the data? I have to transfer the data here. Now that is also a very costly operation where the data size is huge and sometimes it is totally impractical to transfer the data and then writing queries, because most of the time will be consumed by the transfer of data, which is really very difficult to do. So for that, what we can do from Synapse, we have this Polybase technology. So what is this Polybase technology? Here we actually don't transfer the data. Okay, but then how we will write the queries? There is a concept of external table. If you means to know the details about it, again the articles I have forwarded to you, you can go through them. Hopefully it will make you more clear. So there is a concept called external table. Is nothing but a view. So when you learn the RDBMS, you know about view. View is nothing but a virtual table. It's a query, right? So when we create view, we actually don't create any table, right? Or we don't keep the data. What we keep some query inside the view, and when someone tries to get data from the view, then internally some query is executed and the data is actually retrieved from the table. So here is also is the same thing, the Polybase technology. What happens here, that you don't transfer the data from the storage to the Synapse SQL. Okay, I will draw it freshly. So say this is my storage. Okay, this is the storage. Okay, this is the storage where I have the data. Now this is my Synapse SQL. Okay, say this is the table. and this is the query I am writing. Okay, so to write the queries I need the data. So what I think traditionally that I should transfer the data from the storage to the table of Synapse table, but that is a costly operation, so actually we don't do it. What we do, we create some external table here. So external table is nothing but a like a view. So here I don't have the data transfer. What I have the structure. I have the structure of the table and this is linked with the storage. So when you write some query on this table, then actually what happens, the data is retrieved from the storage and the query is executed. So for you, if you are writing the query, it will be totally transparent, means you will never understand that the data is not there in the table. You will think that I am writing my query on this Synapse SQL database. But actually, the data is present in the storage. Whenever you are writing the queries on the tables, these tables are there in Synapse, but it has only the structure. It does not have the data. So whenever the data is required, then the data is retrieved from the Azure storage and then the query gets the data. So that is how this Polybase technology works. Okay, fine. Let us go back. Now this is the decoupled storage and compute. So independently size compute power irrespective of storage needs. As I told you that storage and compute are different here. So you don't have to take more compute if you are taking more storage. Okay. It is like you can take your storage requirement as per your need and you can take compute as per your need. Grow or shrink compute power within a SQL pool without moving data. That is also very important. That maybe you are taking some 100 power for now, and you are seeing that maybe that for some time you need more processing. There is lot of queries are being executed. Say for a particular time, say for the bank you are managing the warehouse, and say during the annual meeting or some duration that lot of reports and queries are required to be generated. So that time you need more compute power, and maybe after once the meeting is over, there is a less requirement. So instead of maintaining the high compute power always, you can grow or shrink as per your requirement, but you don't have to move your data will be intact. You can only work on the compute power. Pause compute capacity while leaving data intact, only pay for storage. Okay, so when you are pausing the compute activity, it is not like that your data is also gone. Data is there, you will not be able to query the data, that's different, but data you will be there intact. So you can pause the compute capacity so that no one will be able to connect and write any query, and when you resume it, then again I'll be able to write queries. So data will be there, but for that particular duration, after pause I don't have to pay. So that is the decouple storage and compute. Now, as I told you that whenever you create these Synapse, you have to integrate with the storage account. Without that, you cannot create it. Okay. So this Azure storage, it is used to keep user data safe, separate charge for storage consumption. Okay. So you have to pay for it. Serverless SQL pool allows to query data lake files. Dedicated SQL pool allows to query and ingest data from your data lake file. So in case of serverless SQL pool, as you know that I am really not getting any storage or compute power inside the SQL pool. Okay, it's like on higher basis, right? So you can again compare it with your own laptop and the cyber cafe machine, right? So when it is your own machine, you can keep it there, you can save it. When you get something in mail from a friend, you can just keep it there. But if it is a cyber cafe machine, then what you can do, you can just go there, open the mail, see the attachment, do the necessary activities, then you have to remove it and go, right? You cannot keep it there that okay, this is my storage, I will keep it there. It's not possible for the shared resources. So here also the same thing. When you are working with serverless SQL pool, then you can query whatever data is there in your data lake. But when it is a dedicated pool, you can query as well as you can take that data and copy it in your Synapse SQL. Data ingested into dedicated SQL pool sharded into distributions to optimize the performance. I'll come to that exactly what is a distribution. Supported sharding patterns hoche hash, round robin and replicate. So whatever data you have within the dedicated pool, that data is actually divided. Instead of maintaining the entire set of data together, data is divided in multiple parts. Okay, because you know that when you have lot of work to do and at the same time you have to do it very fast, then the one and only option is to do it in parallel, right? Otherwise it's never possible. Say you have to submit you have to submit two assignments at the same day at the same time, and you have only 1 hour left. So only option is that you have to work in parallel, or you have to distribute it to multiple friends that okay, please help me to complete the assignment, right? So you have two ways. Either you have to work it means multiple things you have to do at the same time, which is mostly not possible most of the time, or you have to share your work. So here also the same thing. It's like the many different means the data, entire data is distributed in multiple parts so that it can be accessed by multiple compute nodes at the same time in parallel, and the processing is done in parallel. Now how the data is divided or distributed, there are three possible types. This is known as sharding. Sharding is nothing but divisions. Okay, so there are three patterns: hash, round robin and replicate. Okay, so before going to these distributions, we'll discuss on something on this control node and compute node. So control node is the brain of the architecture. It interacts with all applications and connections. MPP engine runs on the control node to optimize and coordinate parallel queries, right? So you know that control node is something which is taking the request from the application, then it uses the MPP engine to divide the work in multiple parts, and then the work is distributed to the compute nodes, and when the work is done by the compute nodes, then again it coordinate with the compute nodes, then it get it together and it sends it back to the application. Okay. Now it's compute node, it provides the computational power. Distributions map to compute nodes for processing, and number of compute nodes range from 1 to 60. Okay, we talked about distribution. The distribution is nothing but how the data is divided. Okay, and the data and these queries, they are divided in 60 components. Okay, this is all, there is always 60 distributions, and the number of compute nodes may be from 1 to 60. I'll come to that in detail. Before that, it is data movement service. So I talked about it. This is the data transfer technology in dedicated SQL pool. It coordinates data movement between the compute nodes. You know that the same data may be required by multiple compute nodes. So that distribution and linking is being done by this data movement service. Some queries require data movement to ensure the parallel queries return accurate results, and DMS ensures the right data gets to the right location. That is very important, right? Because as many people are working at the same time, then some coordinator is required, right? So who can take care that who is working on which thing and who requires which data. Otherwise your parallel work cannot really run in parallel. So that work is being done by the DMS. Okay, now we will come to the details of distribution. Basic unit of storage and processing for parallel queries that run on distributed data. Okay, so as I told you that the data is distributed, So query is also distributed. Work divided into 60 smaller queries that run in parallel. Okay, so as the data is distributed, here the query is whatever query we have to run, it is divided in 60 queries. Each of the 60 smaller queries runs on one of the data distribution. Each compute node manages one or more of the 60 distributions. What is that? Let us have some graphical representation. So say I have a query, okay? Any query is coming. So whenever this query is coming to the control node, it takes the help of the MPP engine and divides it in 60 parts. 60 queries are divided, okay? So it's like Q1, Q2, Q3 and so on to Q60. And they are being connected with the data distributions. Earlier we talked about data, that whenever we have the data, that is divided, and there is some technology of data division that we'll discuss, but data is also divided. Now query is also divided in 60 parts. Next thing is the compute nodes. Now this compute nodes, you know that it can be of variable size, right? So two extreme cases. If I have one compute node, then what will happen? All the 60 parts of the query need to be taken care by this one node, right? If I have 60 compute nodes, the another end, that then each of the compute node has to take care of one query, because query is divided in 60 parts. So when the compute node is one, it has to take care of all the components of the query, that is the 60 components. And when there are 60 compute nodes, then each compute node has to take care of only one query. If I think of in between, say I have 30 nodes, then what will happen? Then each of the node has to take care of two queries. If I have 15 nodes, then each of the node has to take care of four queries and so on. So what is the number of compute nodes? The compute nodes can be from 1 to 60. So 1 is the lowest end, you can understand. Then this one person has to take care of the entire work. If there are 60 nodes, then each component has to take care of only one part, and in between 1 to 60 any number of nodes, then accordingly the work will be divided. So here the compute nodes numbers range from 1 to 60, and based on that the compute node has to take care of one or more query distributions. Each compute node manages one or more of the 60 distributions. Okay. Now we are coming to the different type of tables. As I told, that data is also distributed. So here there is two things. One is the data that is being stored, that is also distributed, that is also divided in multiple parts, and the query that is coming, that is also divided in multiple parts and being taken care of by the compute nodes. And which data should be supplied to which node, and when the data is shared among multiple nodes, when the data is related with multiple nodes, those things are being handled by the DMS. Now what is the hash distributed table? Can deliver the highest query performance for joins and aggregations on large tables. So if that is your requirement, then you should go for hash distributed table. Hash function used to deterministically assign each row to one distribution. Okay, so if there are some, say, 60 distributions, then how the rows will be selected? Actually there is a distribution column. Say I have a student ID. Okay, I have a student table and I want to keep the student table, say, in 6 different tables. Okay, student record, I want to keep it in 6 different tables. Now say I make student ID as the distribution ID. What does that mean? Say I have written some rule that if the student ID starts with 1, then it will go to distribution 1. When it starts with 2, it will go to distribution 2 and so on. So say the student ID starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So whenever the record is coming from the input source, I am just taking the student ID, and based on the starting digit of the ID, I keep it in a different bucket. So that is how data is distributed in hash distribution table. Okay, each row belongs to one distribution. Deterministic hash algorithm assigns row to one distribution. The number of table rows past distribution varies as shown by the different sizes of the table. Okay, so what is the number of rows will be there in each distribution, that is, it is like different. Okay, so you can see here that say this is the table and there is some hash function. So I gave one example of a hash function. Say for the student id column I can check the first digit, and based on the value of the first digit, that whether it is 1 2 3 4 5 or 6, it is being sent to different distributions. So here you can see that there are some 4 sets are mentioned. So maybe data may be sent to different distributions. Okay, this is the distribution table. Now there is another type of distributed table that is known as round robin table. It's a very simple one. It is the simplest table to create and delivers fast performance. Distribute data evenly across the table but without any further optimization. So it's very simple. Say I have 6 buckets. So whenever some students are coming, I'm just say 6 students are coming. So I put one student in each of the bucket. That is known as the round robin. So it's like one student is coming, okay, you go to group 1, then you go to group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, group 6. Again, the 7th student is coming, I am sending to group 1. So it is not following any specific algorithm, but it is like I am just distributing equally based on the input flow. I am just distributing equally among the groups. So that is the round robin technique. Okay, distribution is first chosen at random and then buffers of rows are assigned to distribution sequentially. So it's like any of the bucket is chosen. Say by randomly chosen, I'm just selecting 3. So what will happen? 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 and so on. So that is how round robin works. Load data in a round robin table, but query performance can often be better with hash distributed tables. Okay, so here the loading is simple. Okay, so it's like very simple technology you are using, no complex algorithm and so on. But generally query performance is better with hash distributed table, because in hash distributed table I can control that what type of data is going to which bucket, right? So if I have my buckets with numbers 1 2 3 4 5 6, what I know that all the students with starting digit 6 belongs to 6th bucket. So when the program is written, it can directly access the 6th bucket to get the data. But in case of round robin, you really don't know that where the student is, what you are looking for. So it's like you have to go to the everyone. Joins on round robin tables require reshuffling data. Okay, so when it is a round robin table, then it's a lot of shuffling and reshuffling is required, because you can understand that here the data is distributed, data is equally distributed, it is simple to implement, but when you are writing the query, you really don't know, there is no logic, right? That in which bucket which data is present, it's really not possible to know. It's only in the order they came, that's the only thing. Otherwise you don't know that what type of data is there in round robin table. Okay, so the third one is known as the replicated table. It's again the simple one. Replicated table provides the fastest query performance for small tables. Why? Because here you are not dividing it at all. As you have 6 buckets, so every record you are keeping in the 6 buckets. That means that everything is available in the each of the 6 buckets. So you don't have to search for, or you don't have to write any logic to get the data. Table that is replicated caches a full copy of the table on each compute node. So every compute node has everything, every data is there. So it does not have to look for the here and there to get some data. Okay, replicating a table removes the need to transfer data among compute nodes before a join or aggregation. Of course, you understand that if I have everything, then why I will ask someone else to get something, right? So here everything is present with everyone. Replicated tables are best utilized with small tables, of course, because if it is a say a huge table and if you keep the entire table data with each compute node, so you can understand that what is the huge requirement of storage, and that is actually impractical. Okay, so replicated table is good, the query performance will also be good. You don't need to connect to other compute nodes to get the data, everything is fine. Only thing is that it is like a lot of duplicates you are maintaining, right? So if it is a large table, then it's not possible. It is good if you have small table. So say if I have a very small table with 100 records, then say I implement a complicated hash logic. I keep the data separately, these 100 rows in, say I have 10 compute nodes, so I keep the data in 10 compute nodes. So every node when it is working, it may need data, so that compute node is accessed, data is transferred, so all complicated things, but actually it's not required. If it is a small table, then a replicated table is the best option. Okay, and if it is a very large table and you have lot of joins, lot of aggregations, then you should go for hash table. And round robin table, when it may be applicable, say you don't want to put any complex logic while dividing the data, so it's a very simple logic, and maybe the queries you are writing, it does not require much joins or aggregations. Okay, so if that is the requirement, then round robin is the middle one, because implementation is the most easy for round robin. But when you have joins, then you have to lot of reshuffling of data is required, because you don't know where the data may be. So if it is a large table and lot of joins and aggregations, then hash is the most useful technique. And when your data size is small, then replicated table is the most appropriate one. So here you can see all table rows are copied to each compute node, that is the replicated table. Okay, so now it is a you know this diagram. So here it is again mentioned for synapse, where the synapse actually stands. So here you can see that lot of data sources, data is ingested in the system, then it is stored, right, in the big data store. Then lot of preparation and training can be done using Spark or machine learning. Then the data can be stored in the warehouse, so that it can be sent to different applications or different models, different reporting tools, so that the data can be utilized, right? So here, what is the model of this big data solution? First of all, it is getting ingested, it is getting stored, it is getting some modifications, transformations, like data preparation, data training is being done. Then the data is finally stored in the warehouse, where maybe a lot of queries are being written, reports are getting generated. Okay, different formats of data are supplied to different apps. So this is the big data architecture, big data solution, and here are data warehouses you can see. Okay, now more about this data warehouse units. So Synapse SQL Pool represents a collection of analytic resources that we told. Analytic resources means defined as a combination of CPU, memory, and I/O. So whenever you are trying to work anything in the computer, there are three things required. One is the CPU, another is the memory, another is the input output. Okay, three resources bundled into units of compute scale called as data warehousing unit. DWU represent an abstract normalized measure of compute resources and performance. Okay, so it's like you have to select the DWU you need. Based on that, the CPU, memory, and I/O will be given to you. But again, there is the possibility of decoupled compute and storage. So you may not use compute always. You can pause it, you can resume it. Okay, so that compute is different from storage. But when you are taking the DW, you have to select one unit, so that you get a certain CPU, certain memory, and certain I/O. Now DW is like data warehouse is now it's a Gen 2, which is known as means it's a generation 2. So generation 1, that was the earlier version. it was known as data warehouse unit, but now it is known as compute data warehouse units. Okay, it provides the best query performance and high scale. So earlier, when the Synapse was not there, it was only the DW, but now the Synapse SQL pool, actually it is part of Synapse Analytics. So in this Gen 2 version, it is this part is now known as compute data warehouse units. Okay. Now here in this Synapse, it works in this model that is known as ELT. So when we discussed about data warehouse, we talked about both the things, ETL and ELT. So earlier it was always ETL, okay? That means extract, transform, load. So what we used to do, that we extracted the data from source systems, we modified them, and then we stored in our destination system. Okay, but now the thing is that it is changed. You have shown it here also, that I am ingesting first from the sources, then I keep it, I store it in the big data store, and then I do some preparation, training, and all that, and then again maybe I'm saving it in the warehouse. So it is the ELT. ELT means I'm extracting and loading, and then I am doing the necessary changes. Why it is now like that? Because the data is now huge, okay, and it is streaming data also. So it's not possible that before keeping it somewhere, it is not possible to change it at runtime. Very difficult. So that's why what is being done: extract the source data file, land the data into storage or blob storage or data lake storage, then prepare the data for loading. Then the data is loaded into dedicated SQL pool using Polybase maybe, then transform the data and insert into production table. So that is a general flow how it works in the Synapse SQL pool. So first of all, maybe if there are some text files, different data is coming from the sources, so you keep it in Azure storage, because Azure storage can keep almost any size of data, and at the same time it is very cheap, right? So first of all, you keep everything, you dump everything in storage, and then you do the preparation for data loading. Okay, you may make some changes in the data, and after that you put the data in the dedicated SQL full staging table, and then you make again some necessary changes, and then you insert into the production table. So we always keep, when we transfer data from some system to our system, it is always a practice. If you work in any database or data warehouse project, you will come to know that first of all we create a staging table. Staging table is nothing but similar replica of your actual table, but it's like a temporary copy. Okay, so first of all we keep everything in the staging table, we check that table, we make some necessary changes if required, and then we put it in our final table. Okay, it's like, say say you are doing some assignment or some project work. So generally what we do, we first try to do it in a rough copy, and then when I see that okay, now it is looking fine, then we make some final version, right? A good notebook where we write it properly. So here also the same thing. Whenever I have the data in the storage, I first bring it through Polybase to the staging table, then we make the changes, and finally we can insert the data in the production table. That is the ELT concept. Okay, so that is what we had to discuss. As I told again, that Synapse Analytics is a huge thing, it has many components, but here our purpose was mainly to discuss on the Synapse SQL pool, and more specifically the dedicated SQL pool, because this serverless pool, it works mostly the same way. Only thing is that it is